I'm part of a generation that's less familiar with this story. That may have been a vampire bat. Or a big leaf. Okay. Either way, it scared me a little. Welcome to the jungle.
In 1956, 5 American men were killed by a remote Indian tribe in Ecuador. Almost 50 years later, their families journey to the Amazon rainforest to visit the tribe, the Waodani.
The most violent society on the face of the earth was on the verge of extinction.
They would take spears and go right into your home and even their own people and kill them right there in their sleep.
They were killing themselves. They were killing oil workers.
There had been absolutely no friendly or peaceful contact with this tribe. They were isolated from the outside world.
Until 5 missionaries decided that they really needed to do something to help save this culture.
And so they began to fly around in a plane, dropping things in a basket, machetes and gifts and things that would be useful for these people to make contact.
And they landed on a sandbar. And they had the first peaceful contact ever with this tribe.
Flew one of the Indians around the village so that everyone got to see him. And 3 days later, they were all killed by that same tribe.
6 of the warriors, along with 3 women, came back and speared all the missionaries.
They had done everything right. They'd made the bucket drops. They'd passed pictures. They had friendly contact. They flew the guy over the village. It was all going so well, and it turned tragic so quickly.
About a year and a half, 2 years later, Rachel Saint, the sister of Nate Saint, and Elizabeth Elliott, Jim Elliott's widow, along with her daughter, Valerie, went in to live with the tribe.
For the women, they knew the tragedy. They knew at any moment they could be facing the same fate. And yet, I'm sitting in a Waodani camp almost 50 years later.
Within just a short time, the homicide rate had virtually dropped among the tribe.
The people have come to walk God's trail and come to know the truth, and it's totally changed them, the way that they live and treat other people and act towards each other.
Ayate boto wabana boto gita mu ate boto barang nuki mia venani ate boto akan boti mote we keking o pikem bate boto pikem mu akan huing ande pong o kening keking akan gurunga o manma imbe ponente.
The Waodani culture has changed over the years, and a lot of people object to that. In fact, I love the culture the way it was, and I wish it had stayed that way. But there's different views on that. Anthropologists, not all, but the majority of anthropologists want to make indigenous tribal groups like this into a zoo. They don't want anybody to allow anybody to change anything. They don't want anybody to allow anything to change. Which is like sticking somebody in a 20 by 20 habitat and saying, okay, you can stay there, and then caging them so that they can't change. And then there's other people that want to come out here and build them all 3-bedroom ramblers and give them all cars. Building roads would be a little bit of a problem, but want them to have everything that we have. And both of those, I think, are extremely insensitive.
Most of the young people, they don't want to be considered Wow. They don't want to be thought of as Waodani. They look down on their parents and their grandparents because they can't speak Spanish and they can't read, they can't write. So they think of them as ignorant people. They don't think they can learn anything from the older people. So they turn and they go the way of the world, and a lot of them are getting involved in smoking and drinking and drugs and immorality and things like that. They go out to the cities and they basically they don't want to have anything to do with the Waodani culture.
Waodani wi an mga karan. Coba bacingin mo pa. Coba kemenani, kadani, renan, rani, mani. Wenani wi wakabi.
Comenzamos a despojar estas cosas que hasta ahora no podemos vivir bien. Yo mismo me pienso que debemos, o sea, a decir a los chicos y chicas, decir que despojemos las cosas que no debemos tener o que no es de acá. Entonces, mi opinión es eso, porque no quiero que más cosas de afuera ingresen más y luego y no van a ver más, o sea, como el chico Waodani, sino van a comenzar a vivir como los de afuera.
There are a few young people that are really living for the Lord and really have started to take a stand and are really shining out as, I think, the hope for the Waodani tribe, for the Waodani culture. Young Minkai is very good with people. He speaks very well, he shares very well, and is really intelligent. Miniwa is very quiet, but is extremely intelligent. And he's taught himself English just from reading a dictionary mainly. An English-Spanish dictionary has taught himself English. He doesn't speak very well. He's shy, so he still doesn't speak a lot, but he understands most of what we say, which is an incredible thing.
Estoy en la ciudad para estudiar y hacer algo en mi vida, pero todavía no estoy pensando qué es mi futuro. Entonces estoy esperando hasta terminar mis estudios y de ahí coger qué voy a seguir para mi futuro y el futuro de los jóvenes.
The leaders in the tribe like Tementa, who has been the pilot of the powered parachute, that has been a wonderful thing for the tribe, and it has proved to them that we can do things that these other people have been doing for us. But Tementa is in his late 40s, I believe, and he speaks Spanish but not very well, and he reads and writes but not very well, and that limits his ability to interact with the outside world, and that's becoming more and more of a need for the Waodani, is to be able to interact well with the outside world. So it's time for the younger generation to step up and not to take Tementa's place as an elder or to take his places in leadership, but to step up and start doing some of the things like the flying and the organizing and things like that Tementa has been doing. My hope for the Waodani is that young people like Minkai and Miniwa, Ene and Emonte will be able to, that the Lord will give them the strength and the wisdom to step into places of leadership.
Boto inyum ponemo monito toma wapuni keti o toma yipen keti o monito pike moni nai memoni ati o monito nanu pe nani peti purumiki wa kiwinkera ni mande.
Did you give him with a little Katie?
Hello, welcome to jungle.
We can't do this. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Omeri gomoni, vi buenmoni, tomoni, mati temoni, yani
I'm thinking this can't be the trail we're taking that boat down.
This is the trail that I think we're going to bring the canoe down on.
Parar. Waodani sabe, ellos no saben cómo va bajar a Montara.
It was crazy. I saw the size of that canoe and thought there is no possible way.
Guys, isn't this cool? This tree, the trunk starts right up here at about, 4.5 feet, 5 feet up. The tree just stands on the roots. It's a palm tree. This is what we call buttress roots, like flying buttresses on the old cathedrals in Europe. Dawa was saying that when she was a little girl that she was fleeing from the spearings. This is where she and the little girls would sleep. They would just crawl underneath the roots to be inconspicuous.
Gotta go a little slow,
Hey. Get him up. Whoa. Whoa. We're just like the military. Throw a bridge across and on we go.
Gracias. Use the bar as a helper.
Hey, what?
Okay, belly.
Okay.
Belly. Oh, excelente.
The first 5 of us that went across the bridges, there was no railings. And like by the time the 5 of us had crossed and they saw like the rest of the people that had to cross, I think they were just rolling thinking this is going to be hilarious and they're all going to fall in. It's like by the time we had crossed, they were already constructing little railings for us to hold on to.
Minkai or waka? Those are honeybees, but there's no honey. When we were baptized and then went back to see the tree house, we got back by the tree house and the stump was, about this high and it was decomposing. But just right beside it, we saw 4 red flowers, this exact kind of flower. And look, it's just a sea of green and then that bright red flower. And my mom said, it just sort of seems like there should be 5, doesn't it? And then we looked off and right on the other side of the little tiny clearing, there was 1 more. It will be probably 3,500 pounds, and it will feel like a lot more than that. Hey Jess, do you still copy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you're still coming in real clear. We're heading up the ridge.
Keely, you're doing awesome. Okay, well, it'll probably get better when you get to the top.
Hey, when you're coming up here, think airplanes.
Think airplanes?
Yeah, think how easy it would be to fly over all this in an airplane. That's why we like airplanes out here. We've come a little less than half a mile from camp. Oh, cushy ride.
Abigail, that makes him Dad of the Year.
Well, be glad when we go back downhill. But I feel good. Go ahead.
Olive, where'd you find the strength to get up there?
Minkai
Was he pushing you along the whole way?
pulled me. And this little girl here.
This is a mani ant, and if it bites you, they say you've been snake bit. Next to a stingray, that's the most painful thing I've ever experienced. It makes you feel like you're gonna die, then you wish you would, but you don't.
There are caterpillars up here, and I thought there'd be 1 or 2. There's a school of caterpillars.
About 3 years ago, Tomo was out hunting, and he was hunting monkeys, so he's up in the tree and wasn't paying real close attention, and he leaned back against the tree that had a whole bunch of these caterpillars on it. They have barbs on their back, stung him. And he got down out of the tree, started home, and he started bleeding. His eyes started bleeding, his nose and his mouth, as though he had been bitten by a viper. That out here, almost all of our snakes are bleeders. And when he finally made it back to the clearing, he collapsed. So they called the plane flew him out, and because all the symptoms looked like snake bite, they treated him for snake bite. He was unconscious for about 3 or 4 days, and I got an email that Tomo was dying, and they just didn't know what to do for him. But then a lady from the tribe who speaks Spanish was there at the hospital, came over to visit him, and Tomo just woke up. They said, "Tomo, what kind of a snake bit you?" And he said, "We tenta, not a snake, it was caterpillars." So they called the U.S. Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, got some caterpillar anti-venom, flew it down, gave it to him, and he survived. But then he told us when we were down here at camp once, he said that when he was dying, he saw the good trail ending, and he walked along it, and he said he saw Oneri, he saw heaven, and he was coming to heaven, and he said it was beautiful. And now these people don't have any stories of near-death experiences. He could hardly see him. There was just lots of light. And they said, "Tomo, not yet, not yet. I want you to go back." And Tomo said, "But I see this place very well. I want to stay." And he said, "No, you go back because lots of the other people don't know. So you go back telling them, then you can come later." This is more like what a real Waodani trail looks like. What we are on is a super highway.
This is really jungle walking now.
It's great to watch the Waodani, how they like look out for you, and you know, when they bring you back, they make sure you're with them and just telling you what not to eat or what not to touch, and they're just always kind of looking out for you. Always laughing doing it, because if we do trip and fall, they usually, they're not the kind of people that help you up. They just kind of laugh and think we're crazy gringos.
Bueno, también en la bajada hay grupos que se sienten para no estar caminando en la bajada y van como que alguien es paralítico para llegar hasta abajo, y a los guaraníes les gusta reír de eso.
I've heard people say they have nothing. Lie. That is a huge lie. They have everything. They have nature. They know how to use it. They know who they are. They're connected to the earth. We are in North America, in you know, not third world countries. We don't touch the ground. We don't do that. Here, you are so connected, man. Oh, it's awesome. Awesome.
When the Waodani asked me to come back, I asked them, "What do you want me to do?" I couldn't think of anything I could do that other people hadn't done. And they said, "Babe, shouldn't all God followers teach other people to follow God's trail?" And I said, "It's true." And they said, "Well, what about us?" And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And they said, "Well, sometimes the foreigners come in and they fix people's teeth. Then the people see them very well." But they said, "But they can't teach the people anything." They said, "What the people really need is to know how their hearts can be made clean so that they can live happily and in peace." And they said, "You teaching us to do that, when we fix their teeth and they see us well, then we'll teach them how to walk God's trail so that they can live happily forever."
Bueno, yo sé que hay médicos que están recorriendo, pero no son médicos permanentes, son médicos que van 2-3 días.
I got a dentist to show me how to do the basics of drilling and filling. I tell people I took 2 semesters of dental school, one on Friday, one on Saturday. Now, no offense to dentists intended here, but the basics are pretty basic. So I learned to do it, I taught them to do it, and they started doing it, but the equipment was very complex. So that's why I started ITech, the Indigenous Peoples Technology and Education Center, to reinvent tools that low-tech Indigenous people like the Waodani can use to help their own people instead of having to depend on outsiders to do all these critical things for them. Instead of making these people like us, we're reinventing the tools to fit them so that they can maintain their own identity without the pain and dependency that they feel now. If we want to teach somebody to pull wisdom teeth, they go to nursery school, elementary, junior high, high school, college, then they go to dental school, and then they do a residency, they do a specialization, and then they start pulling wisdom teeth. The alternative is you take somebody who's fairly good with their hands and you just teach them to pull wisdom teeth. You can do it in 20 years or 25 years, or maybe you could do it in a couple of months. They need us to do it the couple months way, and that's hard for North Americans to perceive.
My initial job working for Steve Saint was to produce a series of nonverbal dental training curriculums, which were designed to teach indigenous people like the Waodani how to do basic dentistry without using words. Not using any language at all, using no words, which would mean that the curriculum is portable. Not only could the Waodani learn from it, but tribes in Africa could learn, Chinese could learn. You could take it anywhere. And so because it wasn't bound by language, I got to see the fruit of that in a small bit, watching an indigenous person look at the video and understand it, knowing that easily the next step could be them performing dentistry on their own people, them teaching other people how to do dentistry, and them taking the tools that and the skills that they've learned to take the gospel to their own people. And I think that was probably one of the coolest moments for me.
Arreglar las muelas, arreglar y proteger de la enfermedad que pueden tener, pero no solo vamos a llevar eso para proteger la enfermedad de este mundo, también debemos llevar el evangelio para clavar al corazón de cada uno.
The good news is we're about halfway to the tree. Bad news is we got to drag the canoe back here.
Kind of wondering about the wisdom of carrying a canoe down this steep thing. I'm wondering how smart that really is.
Show me the jungle roar.
Your face up here?
I'm funny.
There's always at least one jungle sounds expert.
What is it?
It's fruit. I'll cut some open and give it to you. We had one of the guys ran up into a tree and then bare feet too, and then he was like dangling off the edge. He was about to fall over, and he like grabbed all these fruits and tossed them down. You open them up; they're really hard, but you open them up, it's very fruity inside.
Camp. I mean, Ellie and I were waking.
What do you do? You've been shot with a jungle gun.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, you have fans out here.
Yeah. Air conditioning.
Yeah, not bad either.
Oh.
Look at this tree.
Oh my. The good news is this is a beautiful canoe tree, and they started to make the canoe out of this tree.
Which would have been downhill.
The bad news is that it had a hole in the middle of it, so they couldn't make it into a canoe. Good news is they found another one just down here. Bad news is we got to drag it back up this hill before I can drag it down the hill.
And Kurt kept saying to me, this is crazy. We can't bring this up this hill.
Okay guys, you hear that pounding? That's the canoe. I hope making it lighter.
Because we're looking down a hill, there's the canoe. We can't bring this up.
I'm not sure that we're going to see a canoe in the water today.
It's exciting. It's you're definitely going to do some things you've never done before in your life. You're going to get to live with the Waodani for 3-4 days and really enjoy their company. Eat some new and exciting food. It's great. I just really enjoy coming here.